On this Shabbat Pesach, you can see I've got a matzah and 4 glasses of wine on the bottom. Shabbat Pesach is traditional for the Torah reading to be, I think, Shulamit's favorite Torah reading because it has one of your favorite lines, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, that you love to sing. Now, I regret that we don't chant that on Shabbat, and we're not going to be delving into that right now, but I want to acknowledge what the Torah reading is this morning, where God reveals God's self in all of God's midot and all of God's characteristics to Moshe. But rather, this morning, I'm calling upon the spirit of our sister Miriam. And I'm not talking about the one in Albuquerque, although we do call on your spirit sometimes as well, but rather as mentioned in this line from the prophet Micah. Ki aliticha me'eretz Mitzrayim u'mibeit avadim betiticha ve'eshlach lefanecha et Moshe, Aharon u'Miriam. I brought you up from the land of Egypt, I redeemed you from the house of bondage, and I sent before you Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam. So here the prophet not just acknowledges but lifts up the place of Miriam in our journeys through the desert. Miriam, the prophetess. Miriam, who with timbrel in her hands sang with the women a much shorter song after crossing the river. This is my friend and colleague, Rabbi Ebn Leader. And I want to share with you some teachings of Reb Ebn, which are based upon a ritual that he has recently created. Now you see there is on the right a wine glass, and on it is written Kos Miriam, the Kiddush cup of Miriam, or some of us pour water into that cup and offer our blessings for a redeemed world. Reb Ebn has a new ritual, as I mentioned, that he's calling Seudat Miriam. And I want to explain what he's talking about in his own words. It is a gathering of friends over good food, Reb Ebn says, in honor of the tradition that identifies Miriam as the source of the power that brought forth water for the people in their wanderings through the desert. We drink clear water and clear alcoholic beverages that have the appearance of water. And someone at our Shabbos table last night perhaps guessed that maybe they have consommé as well, since they're drinking different kinds of clear liquids. The people around the table offer teachings and stories, poems and songs about and in honor of Miriam. And the more one tells about Miriam, the better. Well, that sounds familiar, does it not? Because at our seder table we read, V'chol hamarbeh lesaper b'tziat Mitzrayim, harei zeh meshubach. Anyone who expands on telling the story of the Exodus from Egypt, behold, they are praiseworthy. And I hope that you also expanded on the story of Pesach at your Seder table and told many, many, many stories, both personal and mythological. This is a redemption story that we tell at our Seder. For at the end, do we not say, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, and do we not call upon Eliyahu Hanavi, who will be announcing the coming of Mashiach when that day comes? And may it be b'mheira v'yameinu, soon and in our time. It is a story and a ritual of redemption. So is the Baal Shem's story. Now, I'm going to share this with you because I need to do it in order to make the connection as Reb Evan did, for connecting Miriam with the redemption story and his newfound ritual. The Baal Shem Tov, as you can see here in these two illustrations, in his magical ways, at times he had the ability to go to the highest of the high of the heavens and rearrange the letters up there in order to avert disasters that were about to take place. Such were the powers of the Baal Shem Tov. Now, the Baal Shem Tov never made it to Eretz Yisrael. He did have an intention to, and his intention to go was a messianic intention, believing that if he made it there, kol yihiyeh beseder, all would be redeemed. Yet on the way, there was catastrophe. A catastrophe and a redemption, in that he fell into the sea and he nearly drowned and he was saved. But he never made it to the land of Israel. So, in some Hasidic circles, on the last night of Pesach, which for some of us would have been last night, and for some of us tonight, the Hasidim hold what they call a Sudat Mashiach, to connect this saving of the Baal Shem Tov with the seder and how it ends, connecting the redemption story of the past to the redemption story of our future. Seudat Mashiach, Seudat Baal Shem Tov. In rabbinic tradition, the well that supplied the Israelites with water in the desert traveled with them by the merit of Miriam. So now connecting Seudat Mashiach with Seudat Mashiach, with the meal of the Messiah through the lens, through the life, through the merit of Miriam. This well in the desert traveled with them through her merit. The well was provided through the merit of Miriam, as derived from the verse, "Rise up, O well, and the waters of the well would rise up." This is the verse in the Torah. Vatamam sham Miriam v'tikaver sham v'lo haya hamayim la'edah. When Miriam dies in Kadesh, the people were left without any water. So clearly the water appeared through the merit of Miriam. Now this well, the rabbis asked the question, what was it like? And answer it that it was like a rock, made like a hive, ball-shaped. It rolled with them on their journeys. I'm kind of picturing, what is it that rolls through the desert, in all the westerns? I forget what that's called, but somebody put it into the chat. Thank you, Tumbleweed. I always count on you, Dan. When the standard bearers camped and the tabernacle was constructed, the rock would come and settle down in the court of the tent of meeting, like a big tumbleweed in the imagination of the rabbis. And the chieftains would stand beside it and chant in the words of Bamidbar 21:17, "Rise up, O well, and the waters of the well would rise." Miriam died there and was buried there, and the community was without water until the well served them. Az yashir Yisrael et shira hazot, Ali ve'er enu la, spring up, O well, and sing to it. The traveling spring, as it is called in the Gemara in Masechet Bavli, in Shabbos 35a. Talmud Bavli, Masechet Shabbat 35a. It has a long history in rabbinic literature. In one tradition, when the people of Israel entered the land, the well too found a place to rest. And this traveling well tradition continued into medieval times. Here is the Maisa. Here's the story. There is a woman's custom to draw water when Shabbat ends, as soon as they hear Baruch Hu in the Mariv, in the evening service. And I'm thinking that maybe Ushaftem Mayim V'Sason Havdalah also was related to this. Draw water from the living well. This is because we find in Agadah, in the story, that Miriam's well rests in the Sea of Tiberias. But every Saturday night, it travels through all the world's springs and wells. And if a sick person happens upon its waters and drinks them, even if their entire body is covered with boils, they will immediately be healed. There's a story of a person whose body was covered with boils, and one Saturday night his wife went to draw water. She was delayed on her way more than usual, and she happened upon Miriam's well when she filled her jug. When she came home to her husband, he was angry at her for being delayed. The guys don't come out that well here. And his anger was so harsh that the jug fell from her arms and shattered, and a few drops of water, lucky for him, splattered on his body, and the few places where a drop of water splashed were healed. Of this, the wise say, all an angry person is left with is his anger. This is why women draw water every Saturday night. But physical healing was not the only quality of Miriam's well. The waters of the well were also allow access to the inner teachings of Torah. When the master, Rabbi Chaim Vital, first came to the master, the Ari, to learn his wisdom, he'd forget everything he was taught. Listen closely, Devorah. And he could not understand anything. This continued until they went to Tiberias. And the master of blessed memory, the Ari, took the master Reb Chaim into the Sea of Tiberias in a little boat they found there. When they were in the sea, opposite the pillars of the old synagogue, the master of blessed memory filled the vessel with water from a place facing the space between the pillars and gave this to the master Reb Chaim to drink. And he said to him, now you'll acquire great wisdom because the water you drank from Miriam's well. And that's when Reb Chaim Vital began entering into this wisdom. And you can find this story from Pri Eitz Chaim. Rabbi Chaim Vital, 16th century Tzfat, did not suffer from memory issues with any of his other studies. It was the specific inner teachings of Torah offered by the Ari that were closed to him until drinking from the well of Miriam allowed him an entryway. This drinking of water reminded me of a quote from Garcia Lorca. The poem, the song, the picture, all is only water drawn from the well of the people, and it should be given back to them in a cup of beauty so that they may drink, and in drinking understand themselves. I have often spoken of the role of the artist in our world. I think that this captures it so beautifully. And that each of us, as I've mentioned so many times, each of us is an artist with the ability to turn our world from the darkness that we face to the light that is shining always underneath. The poem, the song, the picture is only water drawn from the well of the people and should be given back to them in a cup of beauty so they may drink, and in drinking understand themselves. And perhaps that water, it comes directly from Kos Miriam, from Miriam's well, from Miriam's cup. My sweet friends, on this Shabbat Pesach, through the spirit of the prophetess Miriam, may we be blessed in mind, body, and spirit with the healing that we need, with the healing that our entire world needs. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.